Season 7 episode 14 of Outlander kind of marks the beginning of the end of this season, as there are only 3 episodes left. Following an episode that was pretty much centered around Ian and Rachel getting married and also Bree and Roger navigating their own individual issues, the stakes have never been higher, as now every character is either going to be going off to war, they'll be going through the stones, or they're going to be avoiding somebody that's after them. With a trailer for episode 14 playing at the end of the most recent episode, I thought it would be worth breaking it down and giving my theories and predictions on what I think will happen next. So let's get into it. Here is Outlander Season 7 episode 14 trailer explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So the trailer for the next episode opened up with Jamie Fraser being ready to lead his men into battle, and he said the line, "I have 300 men under my command, and I need them to come home." This was accompanied with a shot of him handing over a rifle to a soldier, one that looked slightly nervous and scared. I'm imagining Jamie is going to be giving him words of support and motivation, as now that Jamie's a leader, we'll probably see that side of him coming through even more. Jamie was also saying this because he doesn't want to lose any of his men. He knows that people are going to die, but by reinforcing that he has 300 and he wants them to return home, it's a way of showing that he cares. Within the actual Battle of Monmouth, the Continental Army suffered 370 official casualties and losses, so there may be many men in Jamie's group that don't actually make it home like he wants them to. When Jamie was speaking those words, he was saying it to somebody who looked like they were going to be leading a group of those men. Jamie himself might not actually end up being directly on the battlefield due to the position that he now holds, but he might well be putting his trust into somebody else in order to get them through the battle. The next part of the trailer was then Claire saying the line, "A nation without a flag is like a furnace without a fire." This is her pretty much alluding to the fact that the Continental Army weren't fighting under a flag, and if you don't have one, then there's no representation of unity and togetherness. The flag is what represents the people, so without one, it's like having a redundant furnace. It will provide no heat. During this time period, the Continental Army did have a flag, but maybe there just wasn't one that was up around the soldiers in order to give them the motivation and togetherness that they needed, hence the furnace and flame comparison. This was accompanied with it looking like somebody was making the Betsy Ross flag, which has 13 alternating red and white stripes, and a blue canton with 13 stars arranged in the shape of a circle. This was the flag that was first adopted by the United States in 1777. So the timings in the show don't quite match up with the real events, as within the show we're now in 1778. Unless this is just being made for the purpose of the people in the conversation, as Washington was seen with the flag in the background in the previous episode. The next part of the trailer was then focused on William meeting with an officer, and they said, "The infernal rebels won't quit, but war is long." This was accompanied with a shot of the British Army's camp, and William also on horseback overlooking the men that were in front of him. When William was in the meeting, the person opposite him appeared to be holding a note, and this conversation actually connected to the end of the trailer, as the final section of the trailer was inside of that very tent, and William said the line, "I will not let you down again," showing that William must have done something wrong when he was sent on a mission. I imagine this is all to do with the battle that we're going to be seeing taking place, the Battle of Monmouth, which was the final campaign of the Philadelphia campaign. However, for William, I feel like this is definitely going to be a personal battle that he's going to be embarking on. One which is going to see him on the opposite side of the war that his biological father is fighting on. Within Season 7 Part 1, we saw a moment where Jamie had the opportunity to shoot William, and he didn't because he was obviously his son. I feel like we could get something like that occurring in this episode of the show. And with the rage that William has inside of him, the conflict that he has, and the loss of identity, he may well look to pull the trigger on the person he views as his traitorous father. The next section of the trailer was then in the present day timeline, and we saw Bree getting out of her car as she arrived back home. She said the line, "It's time for a new plan," as she then loaded her shotgun and made sure that she had some kind of protection in case Rob Cameron returned to where he was originally being held hostage. Later on in the trailer, there was a van that looked as though it was pulling up outside of her house. It was difficult to see who was driving it, but I'm going to imagine that this is definitely going to be connected to Rob Cameron. Within the novel, Rob Cameron does go after Bree with a group of people with the intention of finding out the location of the Jacobite gold, so I feel we could see that happening. I originally questioned if she'd go back to the time period with her mother and father in, or the time period with Roger and Buck in, but as we heard in the most recent episode, if you think about the person that you love most when you travel, that's the time period that you end up in. So I feel we'll see her go to 1739 as she'll be thinking of Roger. The real question is though, what will happen if Roger decides to go back through the stones as he's now realized that Jeremiah might not actually be there? So there could be a crossover and the missing out of seeing each other. That could lead Roger to encounter Rob Cameron when he returned home, something that I'd be intrigued to see, as I imagine Roger wouldn't hold back at all. The next part of the trailer then had George Washington saying the line, "The battle is close on us." I think he's referring to the Battle of Monmouth, which occurred in 1778. We know that the Continental Army did go on to win this battle, and they caused the British Army to withdraw their troops from Philadelphia. So I imagine we're going to be seeing the battle which helped the Continental Army on their road to victory and also claiming Philadelphia taking place. As well as this, there was a shot of Ian carrying out his scouting duties with him looking through a telescope at the British camp. This is him most probably noticing that the army is preparing for a battle. It's difficult to know what the actual focus is, but something that stood out to me was what looked like graves that had been dug for two individuals. So I'm wondering if that could have some importance. Or if it's the prisoners that it seems like they also have. One of the final things that we saw in the trailer was of Jamie looking concerned as he approached somebody. Claire also had a look of distress on her face too. So I'm wondering if that's because they're going to be looking at the injuries that Lord John Grey is going to have following what Jamie did to him. Could this instance be Jamie reuniting with Lord John Grey? We know that he was picked up by the Continental Army in the most recent episode. So could he have found himself in the same camp as Jamie? Within the novel, Lord John Grey does actually get sworn in as a soldier in the Continental Army under the false name that he made up in order to be able to survive and no longer be a prisoner, so we could potentially see that happening right here. The final thing that we saw in the trailer was the Continental Army all lined up and firing their weapons as somebody shouted, "Fire," showing that the battle will definitely be taking place in the next episode. The two people that didn't feature in the trailer were Lord John Grey, but as I just mentioned, we could be encountering him with Jamie and Clare, or him getting sworn in separately. And as well as that, we also saw nothing of Roger. But like I mentioned at the start of the video, I feel we could see him and Buck either making their way back to the present day timeline, or stumbling across Bree, Jeremiah and Amanda when they look to escape the threat of Rob Cameron. I can't believe we're almost towards the end of this part of Season 7. The episodes are genuinely getting better and better week after week, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this season's going to conclude. So, there you have it, Outlander Season 7 Episode 14 Trailer Explained. If you want to see every episode of Season 7 of Outlander being broken down, then click on the card in the top corner, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think will happen next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.